Hey guys, today I have a few hand histories I wanted to go over with my friend Kevin. I think this is a great way to get into hands and analyze them deeply. I want to introduce my buddy Kevin. He's a poker player from around here that I play a lot of hands with and we discuss a lot of poker with. So I'm very comfortable learning from players like him. Kevin, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, hey everybody. My name is Kevin, and so I'm mostly a live player, and probably 3/4 of my time is spent playing PLO. However, I've played Hold'em for a while. I still play Hold'em. I played a pretty big Hold'em cash game this past weekend, so I'm still thinking about hands and element Hold'em. However, uh, I don't play online a lot. I have some experience, so this will be a little bit different than what I'm used to. But I just this seems like a fairly informal review, so hopefully we can just discuss some general concepts in these hands. It should be fun.
Yeah, we're not going to be going into the solver and stuff, but I just wanted to show you some of the hands I had questions about, or maybe just if you think I'm taking an okay line, for these couple hands.
Sure.
I can't remember most of them, so
Sure.
we're just gonna just dive right in.
Okay.
All right, so you can see this. I've ace jack. I've raised the small blind. Or raised the cutoff.
Most of these are going to be like 100 big blinds.
Yeah, you can see the big blinds, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so he checks to me. I bet looks like 1/4 or 1/3. Anything to say here, or is this pretty standard for you?
I think it's absolutely fine. Versus big blind, I think there are going to be some boards that you probably choose a larger sizing on. I'm not sure this needs to be one of them, however. Um, can you think of any similar boards where you would take? Do you have any? In what scenarios do you use a larger flop
Oh,
C bet?
I think if I have I guess if this was like double suited or had two tone, if I would, um,
Okay.
I don't know. The four is so disconnected that I might still go range here, especially with my suits.
So like maybe like King 8-5 with a flush draw. Would that be a board to use a larger sizing
Yeah,
on?
I think so. Especially I have some fives in my range with ace five suited, whereas like I don't really have too many hands with ace four here or with a four with a pair of fours. So I think I would only go bigger with yeah, if it was five or like even if it was closer to like Broadway, 9 and up, maybe 8 9, or if the lower cards were
Yeah,
connected more.
this particular yeah, yeah. Uh okay, I think I agree with that. I like the smaller sizing on a board like this that's pretty dry and kind of locked down in the sense that like top pair is going to remain good a lot of the time.
Mhm. I'll go to the turn. And we have the king of spades. He checks and I check back.
It seems fine to me. Ace high still gonna have plenty of showdown value. You have a lot of hands that want to check. You don't. This is not a card you need in the sense that like if you don't bluff, you can't win, right? Ace Jack still shows down pretty well. Plus, you've got two overs to the eight, where if he has an eight or a four, you can still realize equity to draw out on those hands. So like, I think it's fine.
With the suits, with the ace of spades particularly, is there any bluffing going on here, or is this hand just kind of too good to polarize? Or
Yeah, that's a good question. I would imagine that there's probably some percentage of the time where you want to continue this as a bluff and then bluff spade rivers.
okay,
That does seem reasonable to me, but I would be surprised if it was a very high percentage of the time.
what
It
if I
strikes
had?
me. Go
Sorry,
ahead.
what if I had ace jack suited with spades?
How would you play that hand? Yeah, good
Yeah,
question. Right. That does seem like a very natural hand to check, right?
yeah. But then, like,
because
are we
you have
only
tons of equity to realize.
bluffing spades with worse spade draw? Like, if we had, let's say we had 5-6 of spades here, and we decided to, that's lower. That would be like one of the worst hands I would have here, if I'm opening that in the cutoff.
Yeah, right. Because that hand has pretty much zero showdown value. Whereas Ace Jack has some, right? So I think that you do have spades that continue betting on turn, plenty of them. But you might just take the ones that actually have both showdown value and equity to realize to check with.
Part of the reason why I like talking hands with you is that we seem to have similar play style, and like we approach the game similarly. And I feel like by just talking over these without even using a sim or anything, we kind of figure out what we're doing in general, like in these spots. And I think like with 5-6 of spades, which is like a gutter on the flop, and now we have inside, and now we have a flush draw on the turn. I think like that would go into my bluffing range because there is no showdown most of the time. Whereas Ace Jack, even if it was Ace Jack suited, I'm probably checking back because there's not only that I might just be good right now, I could be blown off just being good, but I could be blown off tons of equity in general because any ace or Jack river is probably good too. A lot of the time, you know?
Yes, exactly.
And he bets, looks like around 2/3, maybe a little more. Any thoughts on how you would approach this spot? I don't want to reveal if I do anything yet.
Right. Yeah. I think. I mean, it feels like it should be a call, right? So, because Ace High has plenty of showdown value on double paired boards, so there's an argument for call. I think one thing to think about here is the following, right? So, how often what kind of hands is big blind calling the flop c-bet with that don't contain a pair, and that would need to bluff this river? Does he have enough of those hands?
I don't know.
I mean, clearly the gutters, right? So 6-5 and 7-6.
Yeah, which we can block.
He's got those. And versus a cutoff open, he's probably calling. He could be calling all of them, including all the offsuits. So that gives him a lot of missed straight draws. Do you think he's calling a lot of ace highs or a lot of like 2 overs to the 8 kind of hand?
I think they are in this pool doing that at a pretty decent frequency. I think if he has pocket 7s and 6s and 5s, he should just be checking here, especially if he's got a spade in there. No need to bluff those hands and just.
Okay, so you don't think he's value betting pairs worse than 8?
I don't think he should. Do you think they should?
I mean, you do get to this river with a fair amount of just high cards. Although you also have lots of like pairs 9s through queens.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? But
yes.
Would you value bet? Let's say an 8. Would you value bet? Jack 8 here.
Yeah. Yes. But not for this sizing. I would go 1/3. 2/3 to me on this node doesn't seem to be a thing. I'm sure the solver has multiple sizings, of course, but like a human, I think you either polarize to a king or you bet 1/3 saying I got pocket 6s, 7s, pair of 8s or 9s or something like that, or maybe 10s. But I just don't like this 2/3 sizing. What are you trying to? If you have a king, you're gonna overbet, right?
I think a king can absolutely go in this sizing.
Oh yeah, actually, now that I think about it, because this backdoor spades came in, king might actually want to take this sizing.
Yeah,
but only a king. Not pocket 7s or queen 8.
Right. Well, a 4. What about a 4?
Oh yeah, that's a boat. I think boats should overbet. I think your boat should overbet. Oh no, king is a boat. King is a boat. So
Either a king or a 4 makes a full house,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
think uh, for larger sizing, any full house, right,
yeah,
can take a larger sizing. Overbet's probably fine, right? He's going to challenge you to call down with your pairs, nines through queens, um, uh, and even some ace highs.
yeah. I think a pot size bet or higher should be used for boat for full houses here.
And then you think he has two sizes, basically? So you think he has like a 1/3 and an overbet?
Yeah, at least that's my guess, and that's kind of what happened when I made this decision.
Yeah, that seems reasonable.
So
So you think basically you're saying when he takes this, you think this is just too big for his kind of thinner value hands like an 8?
yeah, and if you're
Uh,
gonna go for thick value, you're gonna go at least pot. So I think
right.
this is just a random click, which is gonna be why you're gonna see what you saw, what you're about to see. If I show you what I did, you can probably guess.
Yeah, so I'm guessing you're calling.
Actually, no. I raised.
Ooh, spicy.
Part of me thinks that, and this is pretty much the main part of this hand. Part of me thought that, I mean, if he has an 8, he's not taking this line. I think he has a hand that could beat ace high a lot, like pocket deuces through maybe sevens, and I want to get him off of those hands. So I don't know if this is ambitious or the logic might be flawed here, but I decided to bluff here, especially with my spade blocker. Do you think this is like too crazy?
Well, based on what we were saying leading up to this, it seemed like you thought this was this is a size that is not representative of the thinner value hands. In which case, it strikes me that he either has a boat and he's taking a sizing a little bit smaller than you think is appropriate, or he's just got air, right? So I don't see why call doesn't work fine here.
Okay. Yeah, a part of like why I even want to show you this hand is because I thought call could work a lot better. And in game, I think I just kind of got. How do I say this? I thought there's just be so many pairs in his range that he's turning into this big sizing out of nowhere, like some fish play. And maybe I'm just trying to convince myself something that's not really going on, you know? And maybe this could be a mistake a lot of the time.
So yeah, right. Yeah, it's gonna work against this weird mergy range that you think he might have, but we already agreed that he gets to the rough air to need and want to bluff, right? And he's probably just reluctant to take a 1/3, a small sizing with a bluff, right? Because this just, although it may be good in theory sometimes, in practice, people just never fold to it, right? With any
Yeah.
kind of reasonable.
It
any
is
hand
double
that-
paired, though, so it might actually get a fold.
Yeah, it could, but I mean, I have a lot of ace high that probably, right? So, and that's probably exactly what he thinks. So he's just very reluctant to bluff for a third.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think I could just call here a lot of the time. Also, like, what is he doing with flushes, if he has any? What flushes does he even have? Like,
Well, right. So he doesn't have ace high ones, since you have the
or king high? Or a pair of fours with it?
card, but he's got the missed straight draws. Right. Yeah. He's got hands like 6-5 of spades, 7-6 of spades, and if you thought he was continuing with like backdoor flush, backdoor straight, then he's got like 10-9 of spades. Hands like that. So he has a few flushes, not a ton.
Yeah. So, I don't know. He folded, but it just seemed like I was getting a little bit too ambitious here.
Yeah,
So
so I mean,
that's
what I think's interesting is like, um, how often do you have a value hand here? Like, what hands play like this, where you actually have it?
yeah. Um, I don't know. Ace
Do you
king
slow
with the
play a
ace,
king on the turn?
ace king with the ace of spades. It seems
Do you play
pretty.
it like that though?
Yeah, I think I could. Yeah,
Okay, so uh,
I have to at a certain frequency.
yeah,
That doesn't mean I'm doing it a lot though.
right. I think players have enough of those hands in their range to protect. So, like, if you were in his shoes and you saw this, right? Uh, what would you think?
Man, it does look kind of bad. Could be like spades, but wouldn't spades bluff turn? You know, at least
Is spades really raising the river?
exactly. It should be only boats that raise the river and quads. I could have quad fours,
Yeah. So, like, I think
but
the
that's
spade
one
blocker is
combo.
not all that relevant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I. It looks like quad fours a lot, but like that's one
Well, fours,
combo.
like a set of fours on the flop that turns a boat on the turn. I just don't think it's checking that often, right?
Yeah,
Because
wants to get value from kings.
exactly.
Yeah, that's sort of why I want to show you this hand. This might be a mistake, even though I won the hand. I think this is a great example of when you win at poker that you could have made maybe a mistake, right?
Right. I mean, look, there are surely spots where um, your line doesn't matter anymore. Your blockers don't matter anymore. All that matters is you think like you have a very clear read on what the other player is doing, and you just know that a certain play will work, regardless of all that stuff.
Which is what happened here. The problem is I have a combo that can just call. Like
And
imagine
I
if
think that's the way you felt about this, but I'm just not sure
yes.
that. You know,
Like it's almost like in my head I have it's almost like in my head I have 7 high, but I don't actually have 7 high. You know what I mean?
right.
Um so anyways, any else to say about this hand? Cuz we could go to the next one.
Sure. Let's go on.
Okay. Okay. So I min raise the button, which I usually don't do. This could have been a misclick. I usually 2.5 exit, just so you know.
Okay, and that's your open and sizing from all positions.
Oh, yeah. Shit, I got a 3 bet here. Sorry, let me redo that. No, my opening size actually changes. It's in the first 2 spots. I min raise,
Okay.
and then cut off and button I do 2.5. Sometimes I do 2.3, but usually it's 2.5.
Okay. Seems
So,
reasonable.
this was I guess like he missed his small blind thing. Post. It's a post. And
Okay,
then
got it.
so this 10 big blind is the yeah. So he raised the big blind, and I call with tens. This was probably a board that I'm these high card pair low card rainbow are hands that I really like to study because the nuts are like locked down. Like
Yep.
you have one queen. You could have the queen deuce here. You auto win basically so often, And then these low cards that are not really in range, especially in a 3-bet pot, like don't matter. So we're playing with like a 2-card flop almost, and I find these very interesting. So this is probably why I brought this hand up.
Yep.
Sorry. Okay, so he bets 1/3. And I call. So what do you think about that? Any thoughts?
It seems absolutely standard to me.
Okay. No raising, right? Are you ever raising a queen here? If you have ace queen, king queen, pocket fours?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say that I raise those hands a lot more often when I'm out of position,
Okay.
and choose to slow play them more often in position. I
Solver.
worry about this though. Like I don't entirely know the answer to this, and I mean I know some players who think that you just don't really have a whole lot of raises in position, in especially in 3-bet pots.
Solver does that
Uh,
too.
but the solver will have some raises. Uh, I think if you ran this hand, the solver is gonna raise nuttish hands even in position, at some frequency.
And that's a function of the solver being so much better at poker than us because it knows that it needs to defend more often than a human will in these spots, right? Like a human is never defending most of the bottom of the range if it gets raised here. But a solver has to, right? Like in quotes.
Right. Um, but especially in 3-bet pots, I am perfectly fine having more slow plays in position, and the reason why more so in 3-bet pots is because in you usually don't have a problem getting all the chips in, even if you don't start off raising on the flop, right? Even if you start with a flop call in position, it's usually possible to maneuver all the chips into the middle by the end.
Okay. Well, let's take a turn because we could get caught up too much on this flop. But
Yeah, sure.
another very interesting spot, which is now we have a trips board. So
Yeah.
the combinations of quads is very low. And,
Yeah. This hand's not fun in your shoes because you just have a bluff catcher from here on out.
Yep. This is probably why I brought this up. And then he goes 2/3. Any thoughts on sizing and, I don't know, frequency? Like, what's he doing here?
Well, I think he's saying that
Less than 2/3, actually.
his overpairs are extremely nutted here, right? I mean, even though obviously he can never beat quads.
I have a lot of ace queen, by the way. Ace queen calls 3-bets a lot. A lot. It's one of the major hands that calls.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to defend all your ace queen in position, I think, to this 3-bet for sure. But obviously, right, with 3 queens on the board, it becomes, and he might just be willing to get stacked by ace queen, right? I mean, what do you think he should do with his overpairs? Does he need to be cautious now that there's 3 queens, or should he just, try to get value from everything else and be willing to get stacked by a queen?
So I've studied trips boards recently, and I actually think the sizing is kind of bad. I think you should go larger. Because if I call, that's 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. He still has less than a pot. He's still overbetting the river if I call. So I think
Right.
he should get more EV out of hands like pocket tens if he has jacks plus. And I have nines. I have eights. God, I have a lot of. I might even have sevens through aces plus ace queen and other things. So often that like if I like let's just say he bets this and then we go to a river and I just decide to fold, he's missing out on like I don't know, maybe double this size of EV, like 20 big blinds of EV that he could have got on the turn. So I think you should go bet big here if you're going to bet. I think you should bet pot or overbet or check. I think that's the strategy you should be playing. So I don't really like this size out of him. But in terms of range, he should be doing this a lot. It's probably the time where big bet frequency is actually higher than like it would be on other nodes, right? In my opinion or guess, I guess. What do you think?
I actually don't mind the sizing at all.
Really? Why is that? Because I fold too much?
Yeah.
Is that bigger?
Well, I think he's setting up the stacks fine for a river shove.
It's almost 1-to-1. It's almost pot size, right?
Yeah, the river shove's going to be like 110% or something, which is entirely reasonable.
I guess my point is I think he's still leaving like shouldn't ace king call here? Ace jack? Shouldn't those call here a lot?
From you?
Yeah. And then fold on a river? Am I being like overly like critical of this little sizing? Like what?
Yeah, I think that I mean, it kind of respects the rule of range advantage versus nut advantage, right? Neither of you, as far as I can tell, have a nut advantage. Your opponent has a range advantage, however. I mean, maybe you're calling ace ace the nuts, and I guess it kind of is. It's close, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when he just has an overwhelming range advantage, then he's entitled to bet at a high volume, but doesn't necessarily need to use or should use an extremely large sizing, especially when he can manage all the chips into the middle, no problem, on the river. Plus, right, the larger he bets, I mean, let's say he's got a bluff here, right? He wants to put you in a difficult spot on lots of rivers, and if he overbets now, his ability to bluff river is not as good because the amount of pressure he can put on you is not as much.
Yeah. Couldn't you argue that the pressure he's put? I guess so. Okay, you're saying the pressure he's putting on with this sizing on the turn is the same as if he overbet this or pot size this turn, but it would leave the river to be easier because of the pot odds. Whereas,
Yeah.
so you don't need to size up. Okay, I get that.
That's kind of what I think.
Yeah.
Because he has bluffs, right, that want to make a big river bet and try to get you to fold.
So what's his bluffs?
Oh boy,
Some low suited connectors. Anything under jack? I think jack high and lower, right?
I think these are fine. Yeah. What do you think you should do with hands like? I mean, especially hands that block queens are good, right? I mean, king jack, jack 10.
Yep. And king high's never good here,
No.
which is why it needs a bluff.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think I should do with pocket
Those hands
tens?
and then right, like you said, hands that literally have no showdown.
Okay, so then then it sounds like if you're bluffing king highs all the time and jack highs all the time, and if he has suited connectors, which he sometimes will polarize with like 7-6 suited, that would be like his worst hand here. 5-6 tens is a pure call then, right? From my perspective.
Yeah. I don't know if he should or needs to bluff a hand like ace king. I have a feeling that players probably do, even if maybe
Same.
it's not. Yeah.
I'm glad you said that because solver I don't think does. I mean maybe
Yeah.
at low frequency, but players do all the time.
Yeah. I think that hand gets bluffed a ton here.
This kind of board with ace king is so street pokerish. It's just like, hey, I have ace king and like I'm blocking. I don't even they know. It's almost like so many
It does
players.
have nice.
Yeah, blockers. But
It does have decent blocking properties, but it's also.
it's not that good. It's ace high.
Yeah.
But it feels like a lot of players, especially even like fish that I've noticed at the casino, will bet ace high here as a bluff. They like intuitively know, even though they shouldn't, but they do it. You know.
Yeah.
All right, you want to go to the river?
Well, I mean, we should talk about your plan, which, I mean, look, I think it's pretty straightforward, especially in solver world. You're calling all the way down.
Well, ace
Basically,
king,
unless you get a really scary river card.
ace or king might be the only rivers I'm pure folding, right? Ace,
Yeah.
and jack, right?
Well, ace, king, jack are the worst cards. I'm pretty sure you call and everything else.
Okay,
Ace,
yeah.
king, jack. I don't know how many calls you're supposed to find on those cards, but I'm pretty sure you're supposed to call everything else.
Okay, so that was my plan. I don't even remember what I did here, and it's an ace.
Yeah.
Look at this sizing now. I think this is another reason why I brought this hand up.
That's interesting.
What the heck? So,
I
thoughts?
I don't know if this is a thing.
It's not.
Oh man.
I think he's
Wow.
got pocket kings.
Oh, Really?
No,
Or does he just run into an ace and
No.
think you're never calling this card?
Yeah. I think he's got an ace. Yeah. No, realistically, I think he's got an ace.
I think players do this a bunch because if you think about it, like, do you ever want to call this if he jams? Do you ever want to call with like your hand, for instance?
No, I don't.
It's kind of right. I mean, the solver probably doesn't give a fuck. You just rip this
Yeah.
card, and the button's still supposed to sometimes find some calls with worse hands because this player's supposed to still have plenty of bluffs.
I'm supposed to defend MDF. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
am I supposed to under defend MDF? Like, in theory, against a jam?
I doubt it.
Okay. Solver wouldn't, right? Is that the rules of the solver?
I mean, there are places where it does not defend at MDF. Look, it tries to. I mean, if you run a bunch of solves, you're going to find that in the vast majority of them, it's defending very close to MDF.
It's usually flop, I think, that they under defend MDF, right?
Yeah, especially like under the gun opens and you defend in the big blind, right?
Is that just because? Is it because of range advantage that it just doesn't have enough cards that are good enough at the bottom? Is that why it under defends MDF on flops?
Exactly. There's just these vast range asymmetries that you just can't fix. Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, would you ever call this 20 big blind bet into 80?
I just don't even know what to do.
You're getting 5-1 or something.
Oh my god.
I think this is a pure fold, by the way.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
I folded.
Oh my god, I really would love to know what he has.
I know.
I feel like he just has an ace and he's just trying to milk you for fucking.
I know. He's missing out on value if I have ace or no, if I have king. I don't know. No, nothing's calling here without an ace. People aren't right.
Yeah. Oh my god.
You could have pocket aces. Here's the thing: if he has quads, he's jamming. That's the problem. Then he's not getting. He's getting. If I have pocket aces or ace king or something, and he's got quads. Now he misses out on value. The only hand that's missing value when you have quads is. I mean, I don't know. I don't like it from his standpoint. It's imbalanced.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I don't think does he ever find a bluff there?
That's the other thing. It's so imbalanced. What has he got? Jack 10? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It's so imbalanced. I played a hand like this against Brad this weekend that I want to tell you about. That's exactly like this. It's so imbalanced.
It'd be pretty sick if he just bets quarter pot with Jack 10.
Oh my god, he'd better show that. Like I would show that if he was able to. That's like so sick.
It would actually be kind of genius.
Yeah.
Oh man. Because think about it, you're risking the least against an opponent who has ace high and made the nuts.
You think
and he just folds. If he just folds everything else, if you're literally folding everything that's not an ace or a queen,
then that bet prints.
It risks the least amount to accomplish the very same task.
Yep. You think if like Linus and Button Clicker were here and he bet 20, he would call with pocket tens or kings or something? I think they would just call straight up.
Yeah, I think so too.
All right, let's go to the next hand.